He has announced that the first consultation with organised labour will be held at the Commission for Conciliation, Mediation and Arbitration, or CCMA, on Tuesday, the 13th of this month. That's next week, Tuesday. The consultation forms part of the strategy that is intended at bringing a solution on the impasse around the implementation of Section 189 of the Labour Relations Act. Now, the impasse, which involves retrenchments. Now, the organisation says it has a wage bill of 3.1 billion rand on a revenue of 7.2 billion rand. And one of the cost-cutting approaches is to cut that wage bill. The unions say this route can be avoided, and two of them are now in studio with us. So let's welcome Hannes Du Buisson from BEMAWU and Aubrey Tshabalala from the CWU. Good to have both of you. Thanks very much for joining us on Morning Live.
Good morning.
I want to start off firstly, before we talk about the retrenchments. I want to, because this is obviously, there's so many issues happening at the SABC, but I want to talk about the Commission into Sexual Harassment that was set up. The findings were announced yesterday. One of the findings that came out basically said that the unions trivialized the complaints from a lot of people that came to you that said that they were being sexually harassed. Would you like to comment on this? Hannes?
Yes, we've not seen the report. We've only seen the summary that has been made by the SABC about that particular report, and we did not see that particular allegation. But of course, that is not true. This whole process, this whole commission of inquiry, is as a result of the unions, in particular BEMAWU, who took this matter to the executive, where we complained about this, the sexual harassment complaints at the SABC, and it was then decided to appoint this commission of inquiry. So it is simply not true that we do not take sexual harassment serious.
Aubrey, your response to the unions trivializing this?
Absolutely not true. I think we even made some press statement around it and condemning it. But we think that the Commission had an obligation and a duty to consult with us if there were allegations posed to us, so that we can respond, so that they can have a comprehensive report based on what we have said and what the allegations made against us. So I think it will be unfair to be accused without giving an opportunity to respond to those allegations.
All right, so you were fully aware of the cases that were happening here at the SABC?
Well, the cases at Lotus FM, for instance, we were aware of those cases. We advised people then to approach the portfolio committee in respect of those, and there were also then disclosures made to the portfolio committee in respect of the sexual harassment.
So you advised them. Did you do anything? Did you help them in any other way?
They did not feel comfortable to raise the issue with the SABC. As the report has stipulated, there is no trust in the human resources system. There is no trust in management in the SABC to deal with those issues. Of course, the other alternative is then to refer such a matter to the Labour Court, which is quite a long and costly process. So that is why we wanted this commission to be instituted and to then investigate those claims of sexual harassment. But I think there's something that one needs to put in context here. There are two scenarios here. There are members that's complaining about sexual harassment, and they may or may not have, in certain instances, valid complaints. And then there are members who's been accused of sexual harassment. Now, of course, we cannot be the judge, the jury, and the prosecutor at the same time. So we have an obligation, when members report this to us, to take this matter forward, to pursue the matter. We have seen in the past sexual harassment cases that has been dealt with. We have pursued many of them internally at the SABC, and we have seen those cases just been brushed off, some of them. We have seen people being dismissed as a result of sexual harassment. We have pursued those cases
because
actively.
Of being sexually harassed, they've been dismissed?
No.
Because they are sexually harassed.
Yes, and there were instances, hearings that has been held, and people were found guilty. The harassers were found guilty.
All right. Well, we'll leave it. In the next hour, we're going to be talking more about the Sexual Harassment Commission and what was found and how this is going to go forward from here on out. But getting to the issue of the retrenchments and the pending retrenchments, what the unions are saying is they feel that the board has not done enough and that retrenchments can be avoided. So I'm going to first start off with you, Aubrey. How do we avoid retrenchments? The route that the board is going, they're saying 3.1 billion rand wage bill, far too high. Only way is to cut the workforce. What do you suggest we do?
I think basically those are shortcuts. As a trade union movement, we know about the turnaround strategy, which they did not present to us. We think the first route is that you engage on a turnaround strategy. You listen to the alternative voice. We have said, amongst other things, that there's a number of ways to keep SABC sustainable financially, because we don't want a situation where you're from time to time asking for a bailout from government, but we want a self-sustaining institution. One of those things is to deal with the issues of levy coming from the OTTs in terms of digital broadcasting. The second point is that at the ANC conference, there was this resolution that was made of increasing the subsidy of SABC to 40%, amongst others. But we are also moving to digital broadcasting, which we have to create a number of channels where a number of workers will need to be absorbed there or redeployed there. So one of the things that we need to deal with is a question of reskilling of labor to deal with that question.
Okay. Hannes?
Well, I think we need to go back a few steps and let us look at what the SABC is. It's a public broadcaster, and by law the SABC is obliged to comply with legislation and to deliver programs in a lot of languages, which may not necessarily be profitable. So in the first place, the SABC is not supposed to be a commercial institution and to make money. And the SABC should have never been allowed and be required to enter into the commercial arena in broadcasting. So that's the first thing. If government is making laws to compel the SABC to deliver certain programs, like the soccer. If people sell soccer rights at millions or billions of rands, then of course the SABC cannot be required to then compete with that without having then the backup of the same government that's making these laws. Turning to the current situation as we are, it may look as an imbalanced picture when you look at the revenue and the salary bill. The first thing that any organization should do is to enter into a turnaround strategy. That is to look for new revenue streams. That is to look to increase your revenue. And of course,
haven't they already tried that?
No, they have not.
They have not tried that at all?
No, they've not tried that. If they have, we don't know about that. Now, if you want to then implement a proper turnaround strategy, then you consult with your employees. People that's been working here for 20, 25 years, they did not overnight become brainless and did not know about broadcasting at all. There was no consultation with employees in this organization to say, what do you suggest as an employee who's been here, who's a professional in broadcasting, on how we should turn the SABC around? It has not happened. This is the first complaint, that you start there by increasing your revenue. Then there's other strategies that one can embark on. One is, for instance, and it's not because we are saying it, but it's an international concept, where you get rid of your senior or top management who has caused this particular situation, and you bring in new people. Now, we have brought in partly new people, and we think that those people maybe, they have good intentions. But we are talking about 2,200 people, living souls, who earns a salary from the SABC and have extended families which they support. And we are putting all of those people now out of a job.
Yeah, indeed.
Because we're not looking at revenue.
Yeah. Let's look at top executive salaries, because the minister has made those public. We saw what our top execs are earning. I mean, do you think it's feasible in an environment like this that top execs should be earning what they're earning right now?
No, we basically don't believe that. Firstly, if you look at when they came into SABC, they knew very well the status of SABC, financial and otherwise. What they firstly did was to increase their own salaries. But they look at the other side and say, we need to cut down the salary bill, which is contrary to what is happening currently. But having said all of that, SABC has obligation, as we have said, that it has to advance its mandate in terms of a public broadcaster and make sure that it delivers to that. So the situation that we are looking at as a communication workers union is that there are means and ways of dealing with the situation of employment of workers at SABC without cutting the jobs. And of course, one of those areas is to look into the question of a salary bill in terms of how we go forward. Why I'm raising that is that we can make arrangements in terms of, say, can we be able to manage the salary increase at this point in time and not go further than that, particularly at the executive level, where you have a massive management at SABC. It's a very big on top and very slim at the bottom. And the bulk of the amount goes to the management at SABC.
Yeah. The bulk of this also is being pointed towards irregular appointments and people in positions that were not advertised. Where were the trade unions during all of this?
Well, if you remember correctly, on the 13th of September last year, we sent a memo to the interim board where we complained about all of those irregular appointments. We had a number of issues that we raised there. The one was the enforcers that were still employed by the SABC, the irregular appointments. And guess what the SABC did about that? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Those people are still being employed. Our view is that some of those people are employed in very important positions, and that is the reason why the SABC sits in the situation that it currently is. So we bitterly complained about this. We forwarded this to the portfolio committee as well, and nothing was done about that.
What about also, and I think one of the things that people that work here would love to know is where are we at getting money back from former executives, from bonuses that they were given, from hefty salary increases that they were illegally granted? I mean, where's that money? How do we go about getting that back? Were they your members as well?
Well, firstly, if there were irregularities, we must track that and also make sure that we recoup the money. We're kind of relieved when we said that we had SABC saying that they will use labor court to make sure on recouping that particular money. So it's a process that you have to follow it legally in terms of recouping that money that was lost during the time.
Well, I think what one should do is not only to focus on employees inside the SABC.
Yes, certainly outside of the SABC. That's who I'm talking about.
Well, we're talking about ministers and boards that has been responsible for the situation that the SABC currently is. There's an oversight role that a board must play at the SABC. Why else were they appointed in the first place? So those boards who allowed the SABC to get into the situation that it's currently in should be held accountable for that. And the SABC, as far as we know, are not going after those people. They are going after employees because I think that they see them as soft targets. And we don't necessarily disagree with that notion. We are also going after people who's owing us money as a result of this situation.
I'm going to speed this up because we're running out of time. Do you believe that the SABC is overstaffed?
No, we think that people are wrongly placed, first and foremost, particularly
but are there
management.
too many people working here?
No, SABC has a lot to do. Like we are just talking about the digital transaction, that there must be more channels into it. We think people need to be redeployed in correct positions. We don't believe that we are overstaffed. Hence, we are calling for an independent auditors on HR so that we can be looking into that matter and be able to say where do we have skills and where do we need to reskill our people.
Yeah. What about independent contractors? It's almost as if, and I am one of them, it's almost as if we've become a part of a void. There's the full-timer, there's the independent contractor, and our rights are very few, if any. Where do we fall in all of this? Because we're talking 1,200 people that could be losing their jobs.
The SABC has been notorious for abusing independent contractors or freelancers. We have people that's been working for the SABC on a freelance basis without leave, without sick leave, without pension, without medical aid for 20, 25 years, on a daily basis, more hours than any permanent employee. We've been trying to get the SABC to change that system so that people can have the protection of the Labour Relations Act. For some reason, they have refused, and we have taken some of those cases to the CCMA. In some cases, we were successful, in some cases not. And the only thing that we can say is for those people to also become part of a trade union so that we then can pursue those issues, whether that's in the Labour Court, whether that's in the High Court. Can I just quickly say something about something that the SABC is putting out to the public there? They are talking about a ratio of management versus staff.
Yeah.
Now, that is a very skewed perception. What has happened is because the SABC has got no human resources system in place. There is no career development in the SABC. At some point in time, people who've been working for this organization for 20 and 30 years, being on the same scale code for that number of years, needs to have been promoted to some position. Now they were promoted into the next level of salary scale codes, which then is being regarded as a management scale code. But they were not appointed as managers. They're just sitting on that band as a reward for all of their service. Yeah. So that's a very skewed picture that has been presented to the public.
If we look at where we're sitting right now, I know that the first discussions with management and the unions will be held, I think, with the CCMA next Tuesday.
Yes.
Have you seen a list? Do you know what the list looks like of people that are possibly going to be retrenched? Are there names on that list, or is it just numbers at this point?
We asked for it.
No.
You've asked for it?
Yes.
Have you seen it?
No.
Have you seen anything?
Not at all.
But have you seen the numbers? I mean, that's important. You've seen the numbers?
We've seen the numbers. Remember, when you go to the process of retrenchment, you have to identify people, you have to identify departments, you have to have a rationale. Why are these people targeted? SABC have just put a blanket to say between them, the so-called freelancers and the permanent workers, these are the numbers. But what we want to dismiss is that there's this notion that freelancers have no rights as workers. Freelancers, in terms of this Labour Relations Act, have equal rights with so-called permanent workers. So on those bases, we are going to fight this head-on in terms of the freelancers and permanent as a sole position.
I want to hit you with something, and I want to talk to you about the time of Claudie Motsoeneng, because a lot of this has been blamed back to those times. What did you do then as unions? You saw what was happening under Claudie Motsoeneng and the problems that the SABC were going through. And one of the things that government had said was, when they did give a loan to the SABC, we give this on condition that you cut down your workforce. Did that ever happen? No. In fact, it increased with a lot more money draining out of the SABC. Where did the unions come in? Why did you guys not act proactively here?
Well, we did. The whole situation as it played out is as a result of us complaining about what went on at the time at the SABC. It is us who exposed all of the irregular contracts, the TV license people that has been appointed, the vision view set, all of that information. It's a dossier that we compiled, which we then submitted to Portfolio Committee and also to internal audit. So yes, from our side, we were actively, and as you may or may not know, we are currently at the Constitutional Court, where Mr. Motsoeneng has contested the fact that he must pay our legal cost in the SABC 8 matter. So we actively pursued it.
I mean, but okay, we're in news. I have to wrap this. Last question to you. And again, and I am going to be very hard, because when the Public Protector came out with her report in 2014, you were the first union to protest against that report, and you vilified her. What were you thinking at that time?
Well, that has often been said, but let's go to archives. You'll recall that CWU was amongst the first union to march to Lutuli House. And we, at that point, if you look at the archives, we said in our press statement, we were demanding that she should be removed, Faith Mutambi. If you recall, the only thing that has happened, and I keep on emphasizing this point, is when there was a mobilizing through SANEF that there must be removal of Claudie Motsoeneng. CW at that point in time, because we are not consulted, we have structures in the organization, we said we are not part of that. And we are accused on all of this being the allies of Claudie and all of that. But we must understand one thing. Our relationship as trade union and business is contrary complementary. So from time to time, you'll have this contrary relationship, but at the same time, because you exist, because they are businesses as a trade union, you have to interact with those. So we're accused, I think, wrongly, but we need to look at the archives and look at the press statement of CW. Yes, there are points where we have agreed with the management of SABC, and we must look into those things, which is the points that we have agreed on to.
Okay, well, we'll have to leave it there, unfortunately. In fact, we will bring up that press release and see where the CW you were during all of that. But if I remember correctly, you were very much so against the Public Protector and for Claudie Motsoeneng. But let's leave it there. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here in studio with us, and we'll continue to monitor this. The meeting is next week. However, I know that there's a big protest planned for Friday with unions and employees here at the SABC. Hannes Du Buisson, the president of Broadcasting, Electronic Media and Allied Workers Union, that's BEMAWU, and Aubrey Tshabalala, general secretary of the Communication Workers Union. Gone 7 o'clock. Here is your